Okay, so our digital asset is the first part is set up, which is the reducing, having the ability to reduce the point density. And the other parts that we can start building, maybe we can turn this on, it's fine. This is something that we always want to keep on. This is something that takes some time to calculate if you want to eliminate stray points. So it might make sense for us to have an option of going through this process or not going through the process in case we don't detect any stray points. So this is another good place to add a switch. Let me pull this down. And so I'll turn these two on and we'll use the same strategy. So here on the, we'll select our HDA, right click, type properties. Let's add another toggle and let's give this the option of remove strays, remove stray points, apply, and we can go to our asset. We should have it here. It's going through it. So I'll right click, copy the parameter and go in and here paste relative references. And now if we turn on that option, it will remove the stray points. We can test it right away. So I'll accept. So everything seems to be working. We have our reduce points active. And if I deactivate the reduce points ground, it's going to go over the process and remove them. We'll see that we don't have the stray point here. If I disable this, we have the stray point there. If I enable, then it's no longer there. Now, on our options here, the final step was to make sure that the minimum height was set to 0. So we'll do the same things. We'll make available an option of doing that operation or not. So I'm going to go back to the HDA type properties, and here we'll include another toggle, and we'll call this min h0, and on the label min height to 0. Apply, and then we can copy that parameter. Copy this parameter, accept. Every time we apply change, it goes through. So here on the switch, we're gonna paste relative references, and now they're connected. And thinking about it, some of these we might want to change the default values. So let me disable everything and think about which defaults we want for these. So we'll go to the type properties again. Type properties. So the place where you define the default values is here on the channels. So the reduce points for ground, I think we can leave it off by default. Reduce vegetation points maybe would make sense to have this active. I think this is a good, also some good values for the default values to reducing the vegetation points. Finally, the remove strays, I'm going to keep it off as a default since it takes a while to calculate. We only activate it if we really feel the need to. And setting the minimum height to 0, I think this should be active by default. Of course, if you want to change it or have it differently, feel free to. But for me, this is what makes more sense. I'll hit apply, accept. And once this is done, we'll have to resave our HDA. So right click, save node type. So this saves the changes to the HDA file that we created. And now we can match current definition, and we're just going to be locking it to the current definition. Now, whenever we want to do something like this, we can just type LiDAR processing, and we have the node here, and if we connect, we'll get the same result exactly. As you can see, these are the defaults now, and we get exactly the same thing. So now we do have the stray, so in this case it would make sense for us to keep that stray on. So I'm gonna connect this here, connect this there, turn on the remove stray points, and have a look at what we have. So this wraps it up. We created the first HCA for processing the LiDAR information that we get from Open Topography. Even if we don't have any vegetation points, we can, if we disable it, it just means that we won't have this output. Let's see what happens if we do that. So let me disable this. It turns an error, so we need to also fix this. So let's go to allow editing of contents to be able to go inside. And here, what happens is that whenever that this is empty, we get the error here. So this won't work. And the way we can solve this is by creating an add here. And this makes sure that even though we're not doing anything, we're still at 0. It doesn't error this way. And then we can just make sure that, okay, if we don't have anything coming in, then we can just disregard this part. And we could, for instance, here, place a switch here and say that, switch this. So this is going to only consider this side if the number of points coming in on input 0 is bigger than 0. Okay, which is not the case. So right now we don't, as you can see here, we don't have any points, but it doesn't error out and it doesn't go over this side if it doesn't have any inputs. So now it doesn't error out. Now, if we connect it, everything will work fine. And I'm gonna go back to the default, remove straight points. And that's it. I'm just gonna let it go over the result one more time. And we can have a look at either the vegetation points or the ground points. Save node type to save the changes we just made. And then match current definition.